Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Attention Ditto Heads.
I'm in the fast lane.
Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
It's time for the soul of excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
First of all, say that my thoughts are with the service members, the U.S. service members who made the ultimate sacrifice over the last couple of days. And let me also say that the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here. Taking out Khamenei, taking out the nuclear capability in Iran, but also taking out the ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. And what I see in Europe, I spoke with all the key European leaders over the weekend, is widespread support for what the president is doing, and also making sure that when it comes to logistics, access, defending key U.S. interests in Europe and in the region, the Europeans are really stepping up.
Welcome, my friends, to the Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. That voice you heard was that of the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He was on Fox. He commended, of course, you heard him, President Trump for the actions that he's taken place, and said he has the support of all Western Europeans. Now, Keir Starmer over in the UK is backtracking, and we don't have bites today, but they had the Ask the PM. I always love that segment in over at the Parliament today. And Keir Starmer came up for some criticism for his handling of denying President Trump use of the Diego Garcia airfields over there. Anyway, we will get to all of that and more. The reaction from the left, one might expect. If you find an enemy of America, in this case, Iran, who has been in a state of Cold War and sometimes almost hot war with America for 47 years, you show us an enemy, you'll find Democrats that support the enemy instead of America. That is certainly what's happening today. I told Carlos, I asked him what he thought about us taking phone calls, Monday through Friday. We don't take calls because it's the fastest hour in American media. Not a lot of time here. We might do it tomorrow, was the consensus that Carlos and I came up with, because we've got a lot of stuff today, but tomorrow we might. But here's the caveat. I just want to talk with Democrats. I want to know Democrats, how do you justify your political existence? You hate the country that you're supposed to represent, and everything that the country does to ensure security for its nation and its people, you are opposed to. What is it that you Democrats want besides money that you can siphon off from the American taxpayer to use to your own political advantage. Let me start with a few things. On the Saturday syndication, Princess Di was among the, of course, guests that we had. Princess Di is our contributor. She's not a guest. All hail Princess Di, because Princess Di on Saturday. We also had Joel Rosenberg with us. We had a great lineup of people. John Katzmatidis was in with us. We had Jake was here from our news department. He was just amazing. Rhonda Schrock was on. We had so many people on. KT McFarlane was on the Saturday program. But Princess Diana said something that I think struck all of us very, very deeply when she said that what Donald Trump, and I'm paraphrasing her, what Donald Trump really should call what he's doing is Operation Global Cleanup. Because he is cleaning up the messes that have been made around the world, now going back over half a century. And this is certainly true. Today, there is an article in the left-wing Politico, and that article's headline, Trump Buries the 20th Century. Well, Princess Diana paved the curve. She wasn't ahead of the curve, she paved the curve for this line of thought. Now, this article is off kilter in some of its analysis, but the broader point remains with what Alexander Burns, who is a Politico senior executive editor, said. With a roar of rockets and bombs, a grasp of international outcry, and the death of Iran's supreme leader, President Donald Trump's legacy became clearer than ever. He is burying the 20th century. Its villains, its alliances, its political norms, and ceasefires. And he's unleashing a future of uncertainty and disruption with no equilibrium in sight. Well, I beg to differ with that part of it, but the first part is true. Now, he begins domestically with his analysis. His Supreme Court appointee struck down Roe versus Wade, ending the seething political and legal stalemate on abortion rights that governed America since the 1970s. That is certainly true. His military inventions in Latin America have brought the Cuban government, one of the last surviving Cold War regimes, to the brink of collapse. Also true, in fact, as the story with Iran was breaking, there are other stories that have now been buried in the news that Cuba is talking with the United States about, quote unquote, a friendly takeover, which would be astounding. The Cuban problem has been part of the America psyche since the presidency of John F. Kennedy and the failed Bay of Pigs mission, which was a failure also of U.S. intelligence, by the way, the CIA. His tariffs and trades have blown apart the Reagan-Clinton policy consensus on free trade, upending a half a century of global commercial arrangements and diplomatic relationships. What is that? That is huge. Because what Donald Trump is doing is blowing up the idea of globalism first in favor of what is in the best interest of the United States of America, not what is in the interest of the best economic for the globe. What is in the best interest of America? And that puts us on equal footing with China, because China is not operating from a position of what is in the best interest of globalism. They are acting what is the best interest of Chinese domination of the planet. And the same could be said of Russia. His acts of corporate favoritism and personal enrichment, his use of the justice system as a weapon of vengeance have erased the post-Watergate regime of legal and ethical norms for the presidency. This is something I totally disagree with, But let us reframe the point the way that it should be made. Donald Trump has thrown off the shackles that Democrats put on the American presidency after they were able to get rid of Richard Nixon using the phony excuse of Watergate. Not that there was not that there was not wrongdoing there. There was, clearly. But it did not, as to coin a phrase the liberals like to use, rise to the level of impeachment. And that's what they threatened him with, and they shackled the American president and his powers. Donald Trump has stripped all of that away, especially during this second term, and now America has returned to what we used to and what historians used to call the imperial presidency, meaning the president has power. He's not just some useless figurehead that sits and has to constantly choose between the inactions and the horrible actions of what's happening in the legislative body, which is often gridlocked. He himself is exerting a view of the world, and he's executing that view. And in that regard, he is throwing away the 20th century. Now, you get to Iran. And when you get to Iran, they say, or he says, Politico Alexander Burns, in the first few hours of the war of Iran, Trump's attack killed the enduring leader of the 1979 Iranian Revolution, Ali Khamenei, a dictator as cruel as he was ancient. In every instance, Trump's allies and admirers say he's completing the unfinished business of a generation, doing the work that other American leaders have been too weak or too conventional or too unpatriotic to do themselves. And amen to that. All of this, which Princess Diana called Operation Global Cleanup, is taking place before our eyes. These problems, and let me go further than this political argument that of change, because he's doing something else that's fundamentally different. He is battling one of the most destructive forces in American culture, academia, where liberals have foisted their socialist, Marxist view of the world on generations of American students. He is tackling that single-handedly. He's attacking the outsized use of non-governmental agencies as agents of government. This has turned into a multi-billion-dollar scam. And Donald Trump, during his presidency, is addressing and cleaning that up. He's also cleaning up one of the biggest scams perpetuated on the world, the Green New Deal scam. Again, a multi-trillion-dollar scam that has been hanging around and growing since the 1970s. He is fixing the scam that revolves around illegal immigration that Democrats have been using to corrupt American elections since the last century. We now have 30 million, approximately, illegal immigrants in this country. They have skewed the way that seats are apportioned across our political system because we use population as the basis to assign the number of congressional seats. Donald Trump is making headway and finally redressing this sin, this political sin that Republicans have been too timid, too weak to deal with since the 1970s at least. This is a global cleanup operation. using the words of Princess Di. Trump is burying the 20th century using the words of Politico, and we are witness to it. This is humongous. What is happening now is truly historic, beyond the comprehension of some of the children that are out commenting on this mission. Children like Zohran Mamdani, who apparently has either no sense of the historical nature of what is behind this operation, and these other Democrat influencers, some of these children that are speaking without knowledge, but speaking with or a knowledge of history. And by the way, I have no issues with people that have opposing points of view that are historically sound on this. But these children, like Mamdani, like Gavin Newsom, like members of Congress, like this woman whose primary is tomorrow in Texas, like these ignorant statements coming from Democrat senators, this one in Connecticut that always wants to find himself in front of a TV screen these days, Murphy. And the list goes on this. And we got to stop for a break. These children have overrun the Democrat Party and are in charge of their party. And Donald Trump is battling all of it, as usual, with little support from Republican leadership in Congress, who still operate as if the tail between their legs is a permanent fixture of their beings. James Golden Snerdley with you here. Lou Reed has a heavenly birthday today. Oh, yeah. American singer, songwriter, musician from Velvet Underground, and then, of course, his solo hits like this one, Walk on the Wild Side. Born in 1942, passed away in 2013. The great Lou Reed. James Golden Snerdley. Don't go away.
Rush. This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
My friends, when I say that the Democrat Party is the single biggest threat to the safety and security of American citizens, it is not hyperbole, and I am not kidding. In Virginia, a woman has been stabbed to death by an illegal immigrant who has been arrested over 30 times for charges including rape, malicious wounding, assault, drugs, identity theft, larceny, guns, all of that. One of the first things that this governor of Virginia, Spanberger, did when she came to power in January was pledge that her state would no longer work with ICE. She undid everything that the previous administration did to try to secure the safety of citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The blood of this woman is, to me, on Spanberger's hands. I read reports, and I'm trying to confirm, and I can't say this 100% yet, that this man was released since her tenure as governor, but I'm going to be following this story. Either way, the attitude that Democrats have toward illegals, especially illegal criminals, is bringing more death and destruction to American citizens than anything that is happening overseas today.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, known popularly as Bo Snerdley.
This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Rush.
Asked the president if the U.S. was doing more than these military strikes to help the Iranian people regain control of Iran against the regime, to seize the country from the Iranian regime. And he said, yes, the president said, yes, we are indeed. But right now we want everyone staying inside. It's not safe out there. And then the president said, it's about to get even less safe. He said, quote, we haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon. We asked him about a bunch of other stuff, too, that I'm writing up, and we'll share later
Jake
on
Tapper,
the lead.
ladies and gentlemen. Jake Tapper from CNN. The big one is coming. We haven't even gotten started yet. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. I want to get to a few things very quickly. Believe it or not, CNN, another often contributor to CNN, Van Jones, had a few things to say about it, and I would like you to listen, cut 5, to what CNN's Van Jones has opined.
If you like peace, and if you like democracy, and if you like women being free, and if you like innovation, unleash these Persians. Well, I mean, I think what's happening in Iran may be the most important thing happening in the world. You're going to unleash 90 million people who come from one of the most creative, imaginative, and regal cultures in the history of the world, which could help all humanity tomorrow instantly. It's worth the fight to get them free. A lot of stuff you were dealing with today, they invented. And so they just had a lid on their head for half of a century. And so I think a freed up Persian culture can be incredible for technology, can be incredible for humanity, can be incredible for the arts. It could be the end of a lot of BS in the region. You need a free Iranian people. You need the Persians back on the map for this century to work out well. People don't even know how good it's going to feel to have a world where the Iranian people are allowed to actually do what they've always done, which is to contribute to world culture. Like, we don't even know what we're missing. When we get that back, we're going to be mad that we let it take this long.
That was Van Jones. I happen to look, if you don't know, and I'm sure many of you in this audience do know, what is he talking about when he says when he talks about the things that the Persian people have done? Look no further than the alphabet that we all use. Its origins. This alphabet that we use, its origins are in Persia. Look at the term, and one of my favorite courses in school. In fact, it was such a favorite course, I had to repeat it twice in summer school. Algebra. Persian. The advances that came from scientific, in the scientific field, and in so many fields, architecture, art, that he's talking about. Anyone that studies the ancient history of the world, ancient history, you cannot deny the great influence that continues to this day from the Persian people, as they were called. So Van Jones absolutely has a point about what will happen if these people are, unless she says they've had a lid on them for 50 years. I would go further than that. They've had a lid on them for about 500 years. But I don't want to delve too much into that. Let us turn very quickly, my friends, to The View. And then, this is going to take just a minute. I want you to have a contrast between what's happening with on the networks. You have ABC. I'm looking for that one with The View. Carlos, help me out if you see it there. Did we put it in today? I think we did. Yes, we did. It's cut 15. This is The View. Ana Navarro started it off, and you listen to her, then listen to how what actually happens when someone with intelligence, in this case, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, weighs in, following the rant from The View and Ana Navarro.
I look at Donald Trump and I look at Netanyahu and I see two leaders who I think politically they benefit from war. Netanyahu is facing criminal charges for corruption back home. Donald Trump is facing very low numbers and Epstein files that are not, and we will not let go away.
I do think it's threefold. One, we have 47 million Iranian women who now have a hope of freedom. That's a good thing. Okay, we have an disgusting terrorist regime ended, and the people finally have hope to create their own nation again. Okay, so that's the hope. When we zoom out in geopolitical realm, okay, which is not my specialty either, but I have a ton of friends in the military who specialize in this. We see that this is actually avoiding a boots on the ground war with China when we are able to choke their oil supply, and the president and our military are exemplary in doing so right now. They've cut the oil supply from Venezuela, and they've now reduced it and choked the oil supply to China in Iran. And now what that does is presumably prevent China from having an absolute stronghold on the globe. So this is a strategic move geopolitically that we may not fully understand, but I absolutely trust that this is best for our nation, and we should be America first.
Yeah, instead, the Epstein files, which we are not going to let go, and Netanyahu is rotten, and Trump is rotten. This is what you get from them, these emotionally childish, driven arguments. You know, in our country for decades and decades, what have we heard? When you go to school, every time you go to some graduation ceremony, the children are our future. Welcome to the leaders of tomorrow. If this is the best that the children can do, please let the adults, the seasoned citizens, hang around on this earth for as long as possible. Because if this is it, if the Gazem Newsoms, if the Mondamis, the Ron Mondamis, if the Ana Navarros, if all of these Democrat liberal children are the future, your future's doomed. Because we do not get anything beyond emotionally and politically charged arguments. There's no recognition of the historical background of these conflicts and what they have cost us and what they have done to the world. Over these 47 years that Iran has been held hostage by these mullahs, there have been hundreds of thousands of deaths caused by them, not for just their own people, but then you look at the terror networks that they have spawned and that they have unleashed on the world. And yet, what do you get from analysis from these people? The Epstein files. The Epstein files. Scott Jennings, 16. This is the contrast. That's the kind of tripe you get on that television network. At least Scott Jennings is on CNN doing battle over there. By the way, if Paramount takes over CNN, I beg you. No, then again, don't. I was going to beg them to do something with those rabid TDS journalists over there, but on second thought, leave them there. Nobody's watching it anyway, except for Scott Jennings. Here is Scott Jennings. Brilliant, as usual, from Scott.
It is going to have some impact on the economy of China, because that's where they get their oil, from Iran. And what we did in Venezuela, what we did in China, what we did in Iran has as much to do with China, I think, as anything. I also want to say, may God rest the souls of those troops. But they died in a noble cause. And as Buddy said, 47 years, Americans are dead, the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. I totally disagree with you about the threat not being imminent. I spoke to very senior administration officials yesterday. They believe that the Iranian regime was about to fire ballistic missiles, not at the United States, but into U.S. military bases and civilian targets. They were going to attack Israel. They are already attacking other Gulf states.
You can't make the case back then. Apparatus has assessed that there was not an imminent threat.
I know. My guess is I've spoken to higher-ranking officials than you. On the uranium enrichment, the United States offered them free, unlimited, lifetime, civilian-grade nuclear fuel. They said no. They had given us the runaround about their intentions on enriching uranium for military purposes. How long do you want to wait? Death to America? Death to Israel? How long do you want to wait? We waited 47 years. We have crossed every red line. Every president says they want to do something about it. Only Donald Trump had the guts to do it. You said you're not shedding any tears for the regime, but you appear just not to like Donald Trump enough to be mad about it. This is a good thing.
He's the guy who's going to bring peace and not start wars.
Yeah, and he is bringing peace. Iran has been at war with us for 47 years. The central pillar of the regime is death to America. The other pillar is death to Israel, who is our ally. They have been at war with us. They have been killing American personnel and American soldiers for nearly 5 decades. This is not an attempt to start a war. This is an attempt to prevent further conflict. This is an attempt to get the largest state sponsor of terror off the field. This is an attempt to stabilize the Middle East. I don't view this, Ashley, as starting a war as much as ending the people who are the preeminent terror threat in the world. They're at war with everybody. They're at war with us, and they're at war with Western civilization.
This is a serious question.
No, that's good. Let me just bail out of that because time is short, and I want to get to this senator from Connecticut who just can't wait to show himself up on TV all the time, Chris Murphy. Just listen to this. Cut 13, Murphy on the ABC News, face of that network. Of course, the Clinton War Room hack, political hack, George Stephanopoulos, who poses as a journalist. And this is Chris Murphy from Connecticut.
About the Americans, though, around the world right now, there's also from the FBI and Homeland Security concern about cyber vulnerabilities and potential threats to infrastructure. They've put out alerts about this. Given the current situation, Republicans are calling on Democrats to consider stopping the position you've taken, which is to halt some funding to Homeland Security. Do you feel you need to reconsider this position?
So the Republicans are saying that because they launched an illegal, disastrous war in Iran, we should give them permission to continue using ICE to murder American citizens, to allow them to get the funding to tear gas schools. No, we need to stand up for the American citizens that ICE is murdering, the kids that they are terrorizing. They should stop this illegal war, and they should stop ICE from terrorizing our communities. We should demand that they do both things.
Well, the administration would say they have adjusted some of the way they're carrying out policies within DHS.
They have not. I mean, just because some of the world's and the nation's attention has turned away from Minneapolis, that doesn't mean that they aren't still brutalizing American citizens. We just discovered last week that they had left a Burmese immigrant for dead 5 miles from his home, blind and disabled. This brutality is continuing in the country. We can do two things at once. We can demand that ICE stop murdering American citizens, and we can demand that the administration not send our kids to die for a war that we don't need.
So you believe...
Okay, so aside from this, let's go through this. An illegal and disastrous war. Apparently he thinks we're losing the war, which is what Democrats hope we are doing. It is not illegal. They say this phrase without ever coming up with what justification they have to say it. There is no illegal action taking place here. That's number one. Then he talks about murdering American citizens. So has anyone murdering? You had Democrat protesters, liberal protesters urged on by the governors and elected officials like him who tried to harm ICE agents and found themselves in a horrible situation where they were killed because they tried to interfere with law operations. Tear gassing schools. ICE does not tear gas schools. This is an out and out tear gassing schools. Murdering people over and over again, terrorizing. Here we are fighting the main sponsor of terrorism in the world. This so-called senator from the state of Connecticut accuses us, law enforcement officers of the United States, of terrorizing children. Brutal. And then he talks about this Burmese immigrant. This immigrant was offered a courtesy ride. and accepted it from DHS. They dropped him off at a location. Days later, he ended up dead. No one knows how he died, but immediately the instinct is to blame ICE for offering a courtesy ride. This is obscene. These people are obscene. They hate law enforcement in this country. They hate the fact that we are enforcing our laws. And what they do is, there are no even words for this. He accuses us of terrorism, law enforcement in America of terrorism, while we are facing down the largest threat of terrorism in the world. These people do not deserve the offices that they hold. They are a disgrace to this country. He is a disgrace to the United States Senate, and I hope every person in law enforcement, no matter where you are, listens to how these people talk about you, what they think of you. And if they ever need your law enforcement help, of course, you are too much of patriots and too much of just good human beings to ever deny it. But you'd be the first persons, the ones that they feel free to demonize. You'd be the first person trying to put your life on the line to save people like him. If they got in trouble, we have to break. These people. I tell you, they just tick me off. James Golden Snerdley coming back. Fastest hour in American media. Do not go away.
Rush. This is The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Bo Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's The Rush Hour with James Golden.
Goes by the pseudonym Bo Snerdley.
Rush. Now, here's James Golden.
The political children, like Mondani and so many others, don't remember, they weren't alive, to witness Nikita Khrushchev taking off his shoe at the UN General Assembly meeting, banging it on the podium. We will bury you. They don't remember the Soviet pledge to destroy America and capitalism from within, to try to infiltrate, destroy Americans' belief in religion, in God, to try to tear America's fabric apart. But if you want to see it in action, even now, all you have to do is look at the actions of the Democrat Party for the most part. There are some Democrats who are adults, not many. 2023, on this day, a sad day in music, American jazz saxophonist and composer Wayne Shorter passed away in L.A. He was 89 years old. He was with Miles Davis, so many others, became sort of a household name to many when Weather Report burst on the scene. 1976, this one, Birdland from Weather Report. Worked across the genres, though. Just an amazing man, an amazing, profound view of life. A bit of a philosopher and a great musician. May God bless. Protect each and every one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you. God willing. We are back tomorrow for the Tuesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, I bid you adieu. Remembering Wayne Shorter. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.